Hi everybody, it's You Had to Ask, the show where I answer your questions. And this week my first question comes from Zachary Amaranth, who says, "Hey Steve, in light of your recent Breakfast Club video and the responses, I had to ask, have you thought about doing more regular videos revolving around feminism?" No specific plans for like a regular feminist video series or anything like that, but I don't intend to shy away from it. The Breakfast Club video was feminist in nature. I did a video, my 5 Stupid Things About video this week was about rape culture, and I've done other ones that have similar sort of feminist views expressed in them. You know, it's funny, until really a couple years ago, I was actually reluctant to even call myself a feminist or to identify that strongly with feminism. My wife remembers. She's sitting right over here with a very serious look on her face. I didn't really, and it wasn't that I didn't sympathize or I didn't line up with the things that feminists say and believe and support. It was just that I felt like I didn't really do anything toward feminism, you know, and I wasn't really well read on it. I felt like it would be inappropriate, like I hadn't earned that title, you know. But then I thought about, you know, you can call someone an atheist whether they're active in the atheist community or not. If someone doesn't believe in God, then they're an atheist, whether they give a shit about Richard Dawkins or Carl Sagan or not. And by that same rationale, if someone believes in gender equality and that the way to achieve gender equality is by improving the situation of women who are the underprivileged class relative to men, then that person is a feminist. So that's what I am. Mustang 630. Hey Steve, I've been pondering something for a while now, and I'd like your opinion on it. We know that religion is connected to emotion. No one is Christian, for example, because it is a logical, rational choice. Religious faith is obviously tapped into our emotions, particularly fear of death, hell, etc., and desire, heaven, eternal life, placebo rewards, Jesus appearing on toast, etc. So my point is this. What do you think about atheists who seem to get that same emotional charge from attacking Christians? Do a YouTube search for Christopher Hitchens or Richard Dawkins, and most of the titles are things like "Hitchens absolutely destroys creationist," or "Sam Harris humiliates Muslim idiot." And of course, there are whole channels, not naming names, of people who do nothing but rant about Christians. If these people are so passionate in their atheism because they get the same endorphin rush that passionate Christians and Muslims get from their faith, can we honestly call them true atheist Scotsmen? Isn't this just a different version of Christian happy talk, as you call it? Thanks, man, and keep up the great work. Thank you. I don't know if we could really say no true atheist would do that sort of thing. I think if you lack a belief in God or you have a belief in the non-existence of God, then you're an atheist. But it is a provocative suggestion. I mean, I never really thought about it like that, but I do think there is something to that comparison of the rush that atheists get in taking down Christians, and comparing that to the emotional fulfillment that religious folks get from their faith or from preaching or from hearing, you know, their faith being taught to them or whatever. I do think that's an interesting comparison. I don't know if I would necessarily equate it to what I usually call Christian happy talk. But I will say that what you describe, like the atheist channels or the atheist videos that are positioned in a very aggressive adversarial way at Christians or at Muslims or at any group of religious folks, I even though I completely understand where that sentiment comes from, and I mean, I can't say I've never indulged in it myself from time to time, I don't think that is very becoming of the atheist community. You know, I think it's better to take a more measured, friendly tone, you know, and I think it's better to aim attacks at the religions themselves, at the claims, at the theologies, at the philosophies, at the morality, not at the religious people themselves. And I don't think it's very becoming to sort of relish in the humiliation of a Christian person. Now, again, it doesn't mean that I've never indulged in it myself. It doesn't mean that I didn't think it was awesome watching Bill Nye beat the shit out of Ken Ham in that debate. Doesn't mean I didn't think it was awesome watching Matt Dillahunty beat the shit out of Cy Ten Bruggencate in their debate. There is certainly some enjoyment to be derived from the sort of boxing match quality of some of these encounters. But I don't know how much we should really revel in it. David Kachoyan. Hey Steve, there's an argument that I have heard many atheists use when someone accuses them of hating God. It goes along the lines of, I don't hate God, I can't hate someone who I don't believe exists. I've never understood this because, of course you can. Have they never hated any fictional character from a book, movie, or from any other form of storytelling medium? Maybe I've just never hated a real person to a point that transcends the level of which I've hated a fictional character. But even so, saying that you can't hate someone who you don't believe exists is just untrue in my mind. I don't doubt that most atheists who use this argument don't actually hate God, and even if they did, I think it would be justified from how he's described in the Bible, but I just don't get why anyone would use this argument.
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, I know. My wife and I agree. This is an excellent question. I never really thought about it like that before, in terms of, you can hate, that was my wife's line. I stole it from her.
You're welcome.
She had never thought about it that way before, and that made me realize that I hadn't either. I think the reason why a lot of atheists will use that argument or will deny that they hate God, and they'll say, I can't hate him because he doesn't exist, is I think there's a little bit of switching of the sense of the word hate. I think, I agree with you. I've never thought about it that way, but you can hate a fictional character in a real legitimate sense. You can read a character in a book and go, God, I hate that guy, But I think you hate a fictional person in a different sense than you would hate a real person. And I think if there was a real flesh and blood human being in your life that you fucking hated, I think you would be feeling a little bit of a different emotion or a different level of emotion than you would be feeling if you hated a fictional character. So that's part of it. There's also, I think, the accusation that is sometimes just stated outright and other times very strongly implied when Christians say, well, you just hate God. What they're saying oftentimes is the reason you are an atheist is because you hate God. There's an assumption embedded in that statement that you really believe in God. You know that God exists. You're just professing to be an atheist because you hate him, or because you're angry at him, or because you feel betrayed by him, or because you feel like you don't want to recognize his authority over you, or whatever. There are different ways of stating this argument. It's not always said in the form, you hate God, but it's the same sort of idea. And it's the suggestion that, well, you're not really an atheist, and your reasons for being an atheist that you state on your own behalf are not really true. You're not really being honest. So there's that too. There's a sort of reaction to an implicit insult that people react to very strongly, which I completely understand. Kelvin Coe, hey Steve, this will be a long question. I was wondering if you could comment on the recent escalation of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Do you see the offensive of Israel in the Gaza Strip as necessary and justified? On one hand, Hamas is using civilians as meat shields, which is a war crime, fired over 600 rockets into Israel as of now, and declaring all Israel as their target. They also rejected the ceasefire agreement Israel has accepted and continued to attack the country. They are also an area plagued by poverty, lack of good infrastructure, and would most definitely not be able to stand up against the stronger Israeli army. On the other hand, Israel's offensive has killed over 130 people. The majority are civilians and many of them children, compared to less than 5 Israeli deaths as of this moment. And of course, the near-apartheid treatment of Palestinians by refusing to grant them citizenship, among other things, and having a historically questionable legitimacy to its occupation of the land. Personally, I just want both sides to live in peace and cease fire immediately. What realistic suggestions do you have in order to achieve true peace between the two parties, both short-term and long-term, as well as recommendations for everyone, including us, to do in order to help sustain that peace? Would you agree on foreign intervention like the UN peacekeeping troops, sanctions on Israel, two-state solution? Hope you'll get to answer this question. Thanks. Boy, thanks for lobbing me a nice softball there. The Israeli-Palestinian thing, I mean, this most recent flare-up, which has gotten pretty ugly, that's exactly what it is. It's the most recent flare-up of this seemingly endless conflict that just goes on and on and on and ebbs and flows, and it's been like this my entire life, and it's been like this, my parents' entire lives. It's just the enduring conflict, one of the enduring conflicts in the world of our time. And the thing is, there aren't, to me, the way I see it is there are no good guys. Both sides are complete assholes and act consistently like complete assholes. They both do things willfully to antagonize the other side. They both do things that they know will piss the other side off. They both feel completely entitled to the land. Both sides have some sense of religious entitlement to it. That's more pronounced on the Israeli side, but there's that on the Palestinian side too. And it's just, the victims are the civilians. The victims are the innocent people who are often the ones who are killed by both the rocket attacks from the Palestinian side into Israel, and also when the Israeli army has enough and comes over and just starts squashing people. It's the civilians who suffer. Far better, more experienced, more informed people than I have tried to suggest and implement serious, fair solutions to this problem for decades, and they have gotten nowhere. I have no idea what I could possibly say that would make any sense or would do any good. Two-state solution sounds good to me, but who knows if that'll ever happen. Is there some way that we can just sort of quietly announce to all the civilians on both sides that, anybody who wants to leave can leave, and, just kind of sneak everybody who wants to leave out under cover of dark, just relocate them to another part of the world where they can continue their lives in peace and tranquility, and then just let the two leadership sides fight it out and kill each other? Just put up like a big dome. Put a big dome up over all of fucking Palestine and just say, okay, everybody who wants out, get out. And then just put the dome up and just say, there you go. We'll check back in like 20 years. TGWNN, are there any tips to be a friendly atheist and not a snarky, mean one? Hemant Mehta, the friendly atheist, is a good example, and at the risk of being a fanboy, so are you. I remember staying a theist Christian for longer than necessary because I didn't want to become one of those mean atheists who always bash the Bible and bring up the Crusades every time they can. Now I see that I'm much closer to the Crusade mentioners than the friendlies. What can I do to change that? Well, there are a few things I try to do. I succeed at this much more often in conversations with theists than I do in conversations with, say, anti-feminists or people who are against gay rights or that sort of thing. I have a much more violent, visceral revulsion in conversations with people who take those positions. Whereas if the only reason I disagree, if the only reason I'm on opposite sides with someone is because they're religious and I'm not, and they're not advocating some sort of bigotry, they're not using their religion to advocate for, no same-sex marriage or anything like that, then it's much easier for me to stomach it. It's much easier for me to tolerate, probably because I know lots and lots of people in my life who are really wonderful, lovely people who just so happen to belong to a church that I think is horseshit. So I try to focus my challenges, my attacks, my arguments on the religion itself, not the religious people. And sometimes that's a difficult distinction to make when you're in the heat of the moment and you're having a conversation with someone and, maybe they're starting to take things a little personally, even if you don't really mean it that way. But I try to do that. I try to not take things personally myself. I try, if someone is trying, if I sense in a conversation with someone that they are trying to attack me, or they are trying to get a rise out of me, or they are being vicious, to just be the bigger person and to not take the bait on that, to continue to respond in a civil, friendly way. And to treat people like friends as much as possible. To treat other people when you're in conversation with someone, if you're in an argument with a Christian, let's say, and they're saying something that you think is just completely nuts, be kinder to that person than they're being to you. Show that person more respect than they're showing you. And just see what that does. See how far that gets you. I mean, I've been in exchanges with people many, many times, more often than I can even remember, that started out on their side as being very, very confrontational and nasty, and wound up being downright cordial by the time it was over. Just because I was nice to them. It doesn't take any special skill, just because I was just nice to them. I had a debate a few years ago with Shock of God, who is infamous, notorious among the atheist community on YouTube for being just the biggest asshole in the world. People swear that he can't possibly be serious. He must be a troll. He must be this or that. And he and I got along pretty good in our debate. I mean, he said some things that I thought were bullshit, but we got along fine on a personal level because I was nice to him. And if I can be friendly and civil and nice to Shock of God, who does say some fucking horse shit in his videos, then there is hope for anybody, I think. So I would try that, and who knows, it might turn out well for you. You might try it the way I'm describing it, and you'll think, why didn't I do this the whole time? It'll be as though you've been, struck by a thunderbolt or a lightning bolt, which would be then followed by thunder. Ah, there it is. There it is. It's very persnickety this week. Anyway, you know what it means. It's time for
the lightning round. Rapid fire questions. Glib and adequate answers.
King Christ of Earth. What if they could look at Earth through an interdimensional portal that makes space and time irrelevant? This is referring to the question from last week about the people from 250 million light years away peering, through a telescope at another planet, and they would see things as they were 250 million years ago on that planet. What if they could look through an interdimensional portal that makes space and time irrelevant? Well, then they could see pretty much anything they wanted. I hope you enjoy living in a world where you no longer have any privacy whatsoever. Must be like what it's like when people believe in God. Hugh Jass, who does the voice for the lightning round? It doesn't sound like yours. No, it's me. I do it. I do it real low like this. Welcome to the lightning round. And then I lower it a little bit more digitally and add some reverb and sound effects and stuff. So it's me. It's me. Svarsmannen. Hi, Steve. Seitan Bruggencade stated multiple times that he would debate any member of any religion with his bullshit. What would happen if the opponent simply uses Sai's argument, as the main problem I see with this presuppositional argument is that it can prove any creator deity? It could be a really short debate, or they could fall back to a kindergarten-like discussion. I had that idea first. No, I had. No, I had. What do you think would happen? I think that. The kindergarten thing, I think, would happen. I mean, it might be a little more verbose than that. They wouldn't just literally be saying, "No, me, no, me." They'd be saying a little wordier version of that, but that's what would happen. And I predict if that ever did take place, I would watch it for maybe 2 minutes if somebody posted it to my Facebook wall or something, and then I would, go back to whatever I was doing before. J.A. Christine. Just thought of this while watching the end of last week's You Had to Ask, number 92. So here it goes. Out of all the different examples of future technology that we've seen on TV, in movies, and in printed media, which one or ones would you consider to be the most drool-worthy? In other words, you'd love more than anything else to have for your own personal daily use, even if there was no practical need for it them. Thanks, and keep up the great work. Ooh, well, I mean, at the top of the list, probably the holodeck from Star Trek. Really all of the shit from Star Trek. Star Trek has the best technology. The holodeck, food replicators. Can you imagine just walking up to a fucking hole in your wall and saying, "Give me some food," and fucking food just appears? That'd be pretty sweet. DZOSU071. Dear Steve, who do you think is the worst president this country has ever had, and why? I feel like I've answered this question before. For right now, sitting in this chair at this very moment, I will say either James Buchanan or Herbert Hoover, and for similar reasons, because they both faced national crises and chose to handle these incredibly pressing national crises by not doing anything. That would be my choice for right now. I don't know. There's been like fucking 40 guys who've done it. You could make an argument for a lot of people. So that's the monster. What do you think of Howard Stern? I don't listen to Howard Stern. I don't think I've ever really regularly listened to him or watched the TV version of his show. I mean, I think he's good at what he does. I think he's a really skilled broadcaster. I think some of his interviews are really good. And occasionally he gets off a line or two that is really funny. But then I also think a lot of his show is really like sophomoric and adolescent, and I don't think it's funny. But Stern himself, I think, is a really good broadcaster, really good at what he does. We just have, we part company sometimes as far as taste and sense of humor. Victor Fijalkovsky, I hope that was anywhere in the ballpark. Viktor Fijalkovsky. I feel really bad, but I feel like I'm mispronouncing that name. But that's as close as I can get. Hey, Steve, nice channel. My question is, how do you prepare your text for You Had to Ask? I think I saw an ebook reader in your last video. Do you just copy comments to a text file and upload it to a reader? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I use my, this is a Kindle Fire, and you can see, let me enlarge the text a little bit so you can see it a little better. But yeah, that's what I use. And that right there, Victor, is your question. Can't really see it because it's out of focus, but that right there is your question. That's what I do. I use my e-reader to hold my scripts. I do that for pretty much all the scripted videos, or all the videos where I use notes. Old Comic One, I also watched your ramble where you talked about your ditto head phase. Was there any single person or event that influenced you to move beyond that? Actually, even though they were registered Republicans, and my grandmother, who is still alive, is still registered a Republican. It was actually my grandparents, my paternal grandparents, my pap and my granny. They were registered Republicans, but they were never really traditional like hardcore conservatives, and they were not Rush fans at all. And they were the ones in my family who really like resisted and challenged me when I started to become like a Rush Limbaugh fan when I was like 11 or 12 years old. They were the ones who were like, oh, please. And they would, try to sort of shake me out of it. And so I'm sure they had a big influence on it. They finally got through to me. Sepia Siren. Hey, I don't know if you've answered this before, but I just wanted to know what you thought of Jonathan Demme as a director. I find his style emotional, provocative, visually stunning, and closely resembling the lush presentation of Japanese films. What do you think? Yeah, I think Jonathan Demme is a really great filmmaker. Underrated by a lot of people, but then again, also, he's come to develop a really good, strong, treasured reputation among film people. I think he's great. And his movie from a few years ago, Rachel Getting Married, I thought was just amazing. It was my favorite film from that year. It was just a beautiful, naturalistic, really humanistic piece. Really showed what he is capable of as a filmmaker. And I mean, and who doesn't love Silence of the Lambs? Silence of the Lambs is just a great movie. So yeah, Demme is tops for me. David Gamma Atheist. I have a question. Can I touch your beard? David, that is a really personal question. Do you have any concept of boundaries at all? No, you cannot. No. Unless I can touch yours. Can we work something out with that? Can I touch yours? You can touch mine? It would have to be same time. I wouldn't trust you. Whether I went first or you went first. We'd have to do it same time. We can work something out. Just PM me. Anyway, that's it for the lightning round. Before I get out of here, I want to do a shout out. And the shout out this week goes to an awesome channel that I checked up on just yesterday when I was looking for a channel to give a shout out to this week. And I was reminded of it, and I was kicking myself for not giving this channel a shout out sooner because it is such an awesome channel. The channel is that of Steve Jacobs, and the YouTube handle is Steve Jacobs Comedy, but it is an awesome channel. So much funny stuff there. The main attraction is a series called Books, where Steve describes books that he likes and summarizes them, and maybe we'll give a little monologue on the main points describing the main points of the book or the main points of interest to him. And it's illustrated by a sketch that he narrates, and it's very much in the style of Drunk History. If you've ever seen the Drunk History videos or the Drunk History show that was on Comedy Central last year, it's a lot like that. And it's really, really funny and really well done. And it's shocking how low his subscriber count is. It deserves to be way, way higher because it's really, really good. And a highlight, all of the book's videos are good, I think, but the highlight and the one that may be of greatest interest to you guys and to me was the one that he did illustrating the dragon in the garage analogy from Carl Sagan's book, The Demon Haunted World, where Carl Sagan illustrates the unfalsifiability of God by asking us to imagine that there's a dragon in his garage. And this is illustrated in this video just in a really funny, really effective way. It's just awesome. It's just a really good channel. Really funny, really good, really well done stuff. So Steve Jacobs, he's terrific. Check out his channel. Chances are you haven't. And I highly, highly recommend it. Really, really good stuff. Well, that's the shout out. In addition to the shout out, I have two additional announcements to make about shit that I'm doing this weekend. First, on Saturday, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern, that will be this Saturday. Tomorrow, if you're watching, this is the day that the video goes up, the 19th, I will be participating in another very public spanking. This will be a very public spanking of Bibleman. Can't wait for that. And this will be along with the regulars on that show, Angus, who's Monkey Tail 2002, Finite Atticus, and my pal Jason with a D. They're all going to be there. I'm going to be there. And we're going to watch Bibleman videos and give them the Mystery Science Theater treatment. It's going to be a lot of fun. And that will be on the Very Public Spanking channel beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. And links in the description, of course. And then on Sunday... Sunday beginning at 3 p.m. Eastern, my time, 12 noon, Jason's time on the west coast of the U.S. Jason with a D and I will be reuniting, and we will be doing another late seating movie review. And this time our subject is The Matrix. We're doing a late seating review of The Matrix. We're really looking forward to this one. We've been sort of eager to do this ever since we got the idea and decided to do it a couple of weeks ago, and we're really going to have some fun with this one. So I hope you can join us live for that beginning at 3 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, Jason with a D's channel. Join us live if possible, or if not, it'll be uploaded to his channel afterwards. So that's what I'm doing this weekend. I hope I can see you guys there. Leave a comment on this video for next time. Ask me a question. Ask me anything about anything. Nothing is too serious. Nothing is too silly. And I will answer as many of them as I possibly can next time. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.